All right. Hello. I'm always excited to share some much needed knowledge, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make sure that you understand some principles. Let me switch this out and want to make sure you. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. All right, let me know. So yesterday we started a conversation about high blood pressure. We dealt with some myths. And today I'm going to continue just to give you just some quick insight in on some things that I think you should understand and that you should know. And there's been just a lot of myths about what our doctors have told us in the past concerning some of this stuff. And I want to get to the root cause and have you pay attention to this particular hormone that I'm going to discuss today, because I'm gonna just be honest and tell you, if you don't get this hormone under control, you absolutely cannot get healthy. There's no way to get healthy if this hormone is not under control. And so I want to try to help you guys to understand the culprit behind most diseases, honestly, especially metabolic syndrome, which is a combination of a lot of things that go wrong, like belly fat and diabetes and heart disease and high cholesterol. And when I say cholesterol, I'm talking about high triglycerides and low HDL. And so I want to make sure that you guys are understanding these principles behind healthy living. And listen, this issue that I'm going to talk about today, I mentioned it yesterday, and I hope that you go back and watch the video that I did on high blood pressure. I busted a lot of myths. I just gave a lot of information that most people did not know. We talked about, again, high blood pressure and how really salt is not the culprit behind high blood pressure. And I know your doctors throw you on DASH diets and say lower your salt, but it still doesn't solve the problem of why you have high blood pressure. And today I'm going to talk about the actual issue behind high blood pressure and a lot of other things that are going on, like it being impossible for you to burn fat, for example. All right. So I want to talk about this hormone called insulin. And again, I always say doctors do not take the time to educate and help you to understand what insulin is, how it affects your body. When you go to the doctor and you're diagnosed with high blood pressure, diabetes, pre-diabetes, all of these different things in your or kidney disease, they're not going to say, hey, here's what's going on behind, why you're having these problems. But I'm going to tell you what is going on behind these problems and how you can take some action to start to fix them. Because again, if you don't, you will not get healthy. And let me tell you, I'm going to talk about insulin and insulin resistance. And even if you don't have diabetes, a lot of people are insulin resistant. I'll give you some of the signs of it. But a lot of people are insulin resistant. And again, if you don't get this hormone under control, you're going to be in a lot of danger to your body. Now, what is insulin? Let me just describe it, because on a biological level, you really do need to know your body and you need to know what's happening in your body. You don't want to, as I mentioned, allow your pain to now outweigh your pleasure. If you can gain some good understanding of your body and what's going on and why you have all these issues where you can't burn fat and you have inflammation and your pulse rate is high and arrhythmia and all of these different problems or you can't burn fat well, you're stuck in a position where you can't burn fat. You need to understand, how you can fix this, and your doctor is not going to help you get well, more than likely. they're not they don't specialize in wellness, they specialize in medicine. So if you go to them, you're going to get what they specialize in, which is medicine. But you need to understand your own body so that you can get yourself healed and get yourself right and not wind up, having heart disease and heart attacks and, strokes and, diabetes and going blind and, all of these different things that really do happen because of the inflammation that's involved. And so insulin is the issue, not salt behind. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. I'm going to talk about the devastation from having a low salt diet, okay? But salt is not the issue. And I know your doctor told you that, but it's not. Insulin is the issue behind a lot of this. And I'll explain in particular why it's the issue behind high blood pressure. So what is insulin? Let me just explain it to you so you can know your body, you can know your biology and all of that good stuff. All right. Insulin is a hormone that the pancreas releases to go into the blood. When you eat something, basically any kind of food you eat is going to turn into sugar. So now you're going to have sugar in your blood. And what insulin does is it has beta cells that release basically the insulin to go and to get the sugar, to scoop the sugar out of your blood. And then what it does is it takes that sugar, that glucose, and it feeds the cell for energy, okay? Then when it's done and it's fed the cell, it goes back to the pancreas and says, my job is done, you can shut it off. I got the blood sugar down low, okay? And then there's this on-off communication that happens back and forth, okay? So let's think about it this way, because here's where the problem happens. The problem happens because we wind up with too much sugar in the blood. And this is where all the issues start to happen. Now, when you look at the type of foods you eat, there are some foods that turn to sugar very, very quickly. And that's what you would see on a glycemic index, which is the higher the number, the quicker it turns to sugar and overload your body with sugar. Now, let me just throw this out here just so you can know how dangerous this is, because this is, again, where all the problems start. Our bodies can hold about a teaspoon, the blood can hold about a teaspoon of sugar in your blood. The problem is the average person actually has about 31 teaspoons of sugar in their blood, okay? And so this is how you're going to picture this issue. We can hold really what we're supposed to hold, and that keeps us at a good blood sugar, which is up like what, 70 to 100 milligrams per deciliter, which is when you take your blood sugar, your fasted blood sugar. That's how much sugar is supposed to be in your blood. It's about a teaspoon, but the average person has 31 teaspoons. So what happens when you have way too much sugar in your blood? Guess what? Way too much insulin is now going to go to work, because your body is smart and it's the protective mechanism to make sure that you don't have too much sugar in your blood. Now follow me, because this is your body, this is your biology, and you need to know what's going on, okay? So when we eat certain foods that are sugary, like if you eat, pancakes or bread, pasta, pizza, if when you eat stuff like that, it turns to an overload of sugar, versus if you ate celery, it's not that much sugar, okay? So that means that if you eat celery, what? You don't need as much insulin. Then if you're eating pancakes, pasta, pizza, bread, all these different carbs, that means that more insulin has to come out to do its job to decrease the sugar out of your blood. And then it takes it to the cell. It feeds the cell, okay? Follow me. It feeds the cell for energy, and then the rest gets sent to the liver and the muscles, okay, for stored energy, okay? You need stored energy. So it's waiting, and it's in your muscles and it's in your liver because it's waiting. That's called glycogen. It's waiting to be burned off, okay? So if I eat something now and I have enough muscle mass, that's why actually if you have more muscle mass, you can actually hold a little bit more sugar in your body. That's why like bodybuilders and stuff can eat a whole lot of carbs, because they have a whole lot of muscles that the energy can be stored. Now, once that energy is stored, once it's stored and you have still too much sugar, guess what? What happens with the rest? It gets turned to fat, and it gets dumped in the liver, and then it gets dumped around the belly, okay? So all that extra sugar that's going on in your body gets turned to fat. It gets dumped over like a garbage, like, okay, it's too much. We don't have nowhere else for it to go. So now, I mean, we don't fill the cells. We don't have nowhere else to go. So now it gets overload and it gets stored in the liver. It turns to fat. Therefore, that's how you wind up with a fatty liver, which a lot of people have and don't even know they have. And I could tell you have it. If you tell me you drink juice, pop, if you eat candy, if you snacking on chips all day, if you eating granola bars, if you eating pancakes for breakfast and syrup, basically dessert for breakfast, and caramel macchiatos from Starbucks, I can tell you where all that extra sugar is going. And so again, it gets dumped into the belly. And so now you have all this fat in your belly kind of waiting to be burned off. All right. Now here's where also the bigger picture starts to happen. So now you have all this happening, and this is happening for years, y'all. This is not happening overnight, okay? So after a period of time, you have so much sugar and your insulin is overworking itself so much trying to work off all this sugar that you put in your body that all of a sudden the cell starts to close. And now the insulin is trying to get the sugar to go in the cell, and the cell is closed now. So it's like it's so much we become desensitized. Basically we become desensitized because there's been so, it's almost like, it happens to me when my kids call me too much, mommy, 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 and I'm like working and stuff, and they're calling me so much that now it's like in the background, and I don't even notice that they really calling me because they do it so much. That's kind of what happens, is the cell said is not opening anymore. So then what happens is, if the cell is not opening and insulin can't go back and communicate to the pancreas, then there's insulin there, but guess what? Because there's no communication, because it's closed up, I don't hear you, I'm not letting you in anymore, then the pancreas starts shooting more and more insulin because the communication is now disturbed. More and more insulin. Oh, then no communication, more and more insulin. So now your body has about 7 to 9 times more insulin in your body than you really need, and you got all this sugar that can't be utilized. So again, it all gets turned over to fat. That becomes the problem. And this is why it don't matter what you're doing. If you don't get this, if you don't get your eating under control and the things, and I'll share with you the things that cause this and how you can reverse it. But if you don't decrease the amount of insulin your body is using, you are going to stay sick, because too much insulin is what causes these issues like high blood pressure. And I'm going to explain why. Now, okay, I hope y'all learned something. Here's where the problem comes in, and you'll even notice this with diabetes. Okay, so now you become insulin resistant because your cells are not opening up and all this insulin is being sent out. Now you definitely not going to be able to lose any weight. This is why I can tell people all the time when they like, what kind of exercise? If your insulins are high, don't matter how much exercise you do. And by the way, on a side note, that's why I like to do fasted exercises, because again, remember, we have that stored glucose. And like if I eat something and then go work out, then my body is going to first burn the stored glucose before it starts burning the fat. And you really want your body to be able to burn fat. But if you have too much stored glucose constantly, even when you work out, it's still not going to get to the fat yet, because you still got a lot stored that needs to be first burned off. And this is why I say, if you do a fasted workout, it'll be easier for your body to start pulling on and burning on that fat. That's a side note, if you can, and if you're not on any type of medication. Okay, so that does make a difference. But what happens is, okay, so now you're insulin resistant, you have all these issues, you can't burn fat. And the reason why is because listen to this statement. I'm telling you, listen to this statement. I'm gonna tell you where these people went wrong with how they give you information on how to burn fat and all of this other stuff, especially when you go and you work with like coaches and stuff like that and work out people. In the presence of insulin, you cannot burn fat. Let me say that one more time. In the presence of insulin, your body can't burn fat. This is why you do have to stop eating sometimes, because see, when you're eating, it's your pancreas at work releasing the insulin and doing that. But when you're fasting, your liver now can finally kick into play, and your liver actually has an insulin-like hormone that works 100 times better than insulin. It's called an insulin-like hormone. That's the best way I could describe it. But if you restore the liver, you can get your body to burning fat real easily. But the problem is, The liver only kicks into play when you stop eating. See, you cannot have insulin in your body for your body to now kick in and restore itself. So when you go to the gym and you're working out and all these people are like, eat 6 meals a day, you're going to have insulin always present in your body. You're not going to be able to lose weight if you're insulin resistant. Okay. Now, again, this is if you have too much insulin, which most people do. So that's what I'm addressing. If your body is working and your metabolism is working well, it may be a little bit different. Or if you are an athlete and you work out all day, or you're in the Olympics, or you're a marathon runner or something, or you play football or whatever, or you're a bodybuilder. Yes, they can eat that many times a day because their metabolism and the muscles and they're burning calories constantly. But for the average person sitting at their desk all day working, or like not getting up moving and stuff, like when I have meetings, I like to get on the treadmill and walk while I'm having my meeting. I don't want to just be sitting down. For somebody to tell you to eat 6 and 8 times a day, you're not going to lose weight. It's too, you got too much insulin, and it's going to cause even more than that. Okay, because if you're restricting your calories and you eating like a ant, then yeah, okay, you might lose a little weight. But I'm telling you, this insulin is really still the issue. And if they give you as a diabetic metformin, that's going to cause more problems, because that's going to decrease the amount of potassium that's in your body. Now, let me move over into this so you can understand why salt is not really the issue. It's really potassium. It's a mineral deficiency. That's the issue when you have high blood pressure, because what happens is that same insulin that brings the sugar into the cell, the glucose into the cell for energy, also puts your amino acids in the cell, which is your protein. So that means if your cell is not opening up at all because you're insulin resistant, you're not getting protein. That means you can't build muscle. You know how some people just can't build muscle? Like they work out and they be lifting weights and stuff, but they still don't have no muscle. That's a little, you're getting, and that's why diabetics, is hard for them to build muscle, because you are your cells are not getting the protein that it needs. Okay. And so weakness, joint problems, loss of collagen, all of those things happen because you're not getting protein. Okay. Secondly, this is again where the high blood pressure, and I want to make sure I mention all of this because I wrote this part down. Insulin is responsible for getting potassium also into the cell. Now, remember what I said, it's not a salt issue. When people have high blood pressure, they have potassium deficiencies. And that is the problem, because when your potassium is low, then your sodium is high. So yeah, the doctor gonna say lower your sodium, but the real issue is you need to up your potassium. Now, I'm not saying that some people don't have, some people have had overload on potassium, but it's very rare just from eating a healthy diet or whatever. And again, if you're upping your potassium and you're eating well, that's when I need to tell you, make sure you are eating enough sodium, because you don't want to wind up faintish and dizzy and restricting your brain and your nervous system. You need sodium. So if you start to correct this, you don't want to lower your salt. You just need to up your potassium in a sense. And because you're insulin resistant, you can't get potassium into the cell. And so therefore, that means that you're going to have higher salt, which means you're going to have a higher pulse rate, which means you're going to have a higher blood pressure. Okay, because it starts to restrict those vessels, and it starts to cause inflammation in the arteries. And so yes, that becomes the issue because you're insulin resistant. You're going to be tired. Okay, you're going to have probably chronic stress, and cortisol levels actually start to go up also. Sleeping, cramps. Sometimes you have cramps because potassium relaxes the bottom. Arrhythmias, constipation, kidney stones, gout. All of these things start to happen when you are potassium deficient. And this is the issue a lot of times behind high blood pressure, is its potassium. Now, I did go over a few other things. There is stress things, and there are temporary things that can increase your blood pressure on a temporary level. But I'm talking about high blood pressure that will not go down. All right. And so if you're not getting potassium in your body, and you got all that insulin, that is going to be the effect of all of this. It's also going to, again, it's going to cause you to gain weight. It's going to cause you to wind up with diabetes type 2. And then if you keep, and if you get on medicine, because you're a diabetic type 2 and you don't fix the problem, then that means, okay, just because you're taking medication, it means it's decreasing the sugar that's in your body, but it doesn't mean that it's decreasing the insulin in your body. You have to take sometimes there's tests that you can take to know how much insulin your body is utilizing, because see, I could take some medicine and get my blood sugar down, get it scooped out and not present, but that doesn't mean that my body is not using 3 times more insulin or 8 times more insulin than the next person's body. It just means that the medicine has masked things, but it doesn't mean that the cause is not being taken care of. That's why people go from diabetes type 2 when they don't change this from the root to diabetes type 1. What is a diabetes type 1? That's very, very hard to reverse. It can be reversible, but it's very hard because your pancreas still been shooting out all this insulin. It's still been shooting out, even with the metformin, even with the medicine. It's still shooting it out until one day it breaks. And now, guess what? I can't give you no more insulin. So then what? Now I have to take a shot and start sticking myself to give myself insulin. And if you don't notice, when people stick themselves with that insulin, no matter where they sticking themselves, you're going to start to see fat accumulation because it's insulin there. And your body can't burn fat in the presence of insulin. The insulin turns the sugar that you're eating into fat. So you'll actually start to see them wind up wherever they're giving them the shots. I guarantee you, they're getting fat there, okay? And then, of course, extra insulin has been linked with, cancer and all kind of other things, okay? So this is not a good road to take. Again, when the doctors are trying to fix all this with medicine, it's not fixing the actual problem. If you are a diabetic type 2 or you are pre-diabetes, you don't want to progress. You will progress if you're not changing the issue. If you still got a lot of insulin going on, you won't. The problem is not going to go away. Okay, and so then yes, you do have people who wind up with all these things. Okay, so now and that's why it comes with a plethora of problems, because as life goes on, if you still have insulin, you're going to start gaining one medical condition after the other. It's not going to just start with high blood pressure. It's not going to just start with diabetes. If you start with diabetes, it's going to wind up being high blood pressure. If you start with high blood pressure, it's going to wind up being diabetes. It's going to wind up being obesity and you can't burn fat. It's going to wind up being high cholesterol and inflammation in the vessels. And it's going to wind up being all of these other things. And when you get a collaboration of 3 of those things, that's what predicts the amount of time that you're going to live. So metabolic syndrome is pretty much something that doctors have used to be able to kind of see how long you're going to live, in a sense, So these are really serious issues. Okay, so let me give you a few. And if you think you're going to eat a bunch of bananas to get your potassium up, think again, because you're going to need about 12 of them, okay? Because you need you need 3,000, 4,000 milligrams of potassium. When people aren't getting it, that's like 7 to 10 cups of green leafy vegetables a day, of salad and vegetables a day, which most people just don't eat. And this is why I eat salads every day. I eat green leafy vegetables and kale and spinach and mixed greens and Swiss chard and any kind of vegetables I can get my hands on. I'm eating them every single day because I understand and I know this. But I want to get you attached to eating some potassium foods that are not necessarily high in sugar. And then again, with bananas, if you're trying to decrease the sugar, then that's not going to work either. Okay. All right. Let me try to hurry up so you guys and give you the information, finish up the information so I won't keep you too long. But I need you to know this because you need to know what to do because you got to fix this. Okay. A lot of people are dealing with this. And again, the doctor's not going to sit down and tell you what I'm telling you right now. They're just going to give you some medicine and great, we got your numbers better. Okay, until you wind up turning into diabetes type 1, then we're going to give you insulin shots. And and then when you come back and say, I got high blood pressure, they're going to say, well, lower your salt. They're not going to address the real issue. And then that's going to cause all kind of problems. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. So make sure that you tune in because there's some important things that you need to know as it pertains to that. But avocados are really good and it has oleic acid in it, so it's going to be really good. So start to include that into your diet. Spinach, flax seeds, chia seeds, those are all good. Pumpkin seeds is very good. Sunflower seeds, you can use that. Pork and liver actually has nice amounts of potassium in it. And then you have Dutch cocoa. it not cocoa, but Dutch cocoa, because usually cocoa, uh, pure cocoa, don't have potassium in it. But there's one called Dutch cocoa that does have potassium in it. If you do like cocoa, all right. I don't even know if that's how you really pronounce like coa. It's a way that they pronounce it, but I still pronounce it the Americanized way. All right. Then you can do like if you can find some low mercury tuna, that's good. Halibut, cod, all of those are high potassium foods. You can take a supplement also, but green leafy vegetables are amazing for it. Okay. So how do you reverse this? And of course, what causes it, which is what we went over, is like you eating too frequently, you eating too much sugar, chronic stress, all of that stuff can cause it. But how do you reverse it? Number one, a ketogenic diet, even if it's for a short period of time, because a ketogenic diet encourages you not to eat so much sugar and to eat high fats. Okay, so it's mainly a high fat diet. All right. And it encourages you to lower the sugar, because you have to lower the sugar, because again, when you lower the sugar, you lower the insulin, and in the presence of insulin, you cannot burn fat. All right. So there was two studies. I just want to name them real quick. You can reference them, because I let you know that I do, and I look at all type of studies. But a ketogenic diet is a great solution to reversing insulin resistance. The American Journal of Clinical Investigation found that reducing and eating certain foods that are low on the glycemic index, remember those type of foods don't turn into sugar and don't spike insulin as much. It's not required to have as much insulin if you're eating certain foods that don't turn to sugar so quickly. So again, if I'm eating celery, or if I'm eating kale, or if I'm eating some kind of vegetable, Brussels sprouts or broccoli, that's going to be different from if I'm eating French toast and covering it with syrup and just strawberry syrup. And I mean, folks is eating ice cream and cake for breakfast practically. Okay, when you talking about extra whipped cream and extra caramel this and on top, like this is you're starting your day off wrong. You are gonna wind up sick. It's the truth, and I got to tell you the truth. But again, don't worry, you can reverse this. All you got to do is put some of these practices into put some of this information into practice. The Archives of Internal Medicine did a 48-week study on people who were on keto versus non-keto as it pertains to high blood pressure. And of course, that's a long study, 48 weeks. And at the end, it did show that those who were on keto had a much better outcome with their blood pressure lowered versus those who weren't. So it is proven that a ketogenic diet will work. Fasting, again, you have to have times where you're not eating, and it's good if you can give yourself an 8-hour window. Okay, 16 hours off, 8 hours on for eating. And you can do this a few times a week, but you have to practice times where you're just not eating. Okay, decreasing inflammation and anti-inflammatory diet, increasing your sleep so that you don't have chronic stress and cortisol and all of that. That is going to help you. Of course, eating your veggies and making yourself more insulin sensitive is what you want to be. So you got to think of it like, think of like a big steel door with something trying to get through. It's going to take more and more and more to get through that big steel. That's what's happening with insulin trying to get into the cell. You want a screen door. You want a door that it can get into there very, very easily. And some of these small changes can help. You can also do vitamin D works really good. Magnesium is amazing when it comes to helping out with insulin resistance. And you know what? Cinnamon is really good too. So if you are a tea drinker or whatever, it's good to take some cinnamon and put it in your liquids sometime before you eat or after you eat. It actually lowers your blood sugar. Okay, now how do you know it's working? How do you know when you start to take on this that it's working? Okay, and again, this is so much I could say. I'm trying to help you out in a small amount of time, but it is a lot that I'm going to say with some of the stuff that I have prepared also. But how do you know your belly fat starts to go away? That's how you know it's working. Your blood pressure starts to go down. That's how you know that you're reversing this issue, this problem. Your energy starts to go up. Your hunger starts to go down, because the thing is that people stay hungry when they're insulin resistant. And man, if they go a little bit of time without eating, they complaining and stuff. I'm like, I see people all the time complain, I'm hungry, and they start getting mad and just impatient and things like that. And it's like, calm down, you're gonna eat. So once that starts to reverse, and then you got to remember that because because the cells are not being fed the energy that it needs, then again, it's a lot of sugar in the blood and a lot of insulin being utilized, but you're going to still be hungry because your body's not operating the way it needs to operate. And then there's some other issues that go on, like the brain communication is not right. And then you know what, energy is not even going to the brain, so you do wind up, those brain cells wind up dying. That's called memory loss, Alzheimer's. So insulin is an issue that causes Alzheimer's also. Okay. Having a better blood sugar reading, and then it's what you call Down phenomenon. That's when you wake up in the morning and your blood pressure is high. That'll start to even go down. And then when you eat, you're satisfied and you're not tired. Like if you eat and you like, oh, I'm ready to go to sleep, that means you still have some insulin resistance going on, because those are some of the signs for insulin resistance. So look, if you are trying to make sure that you rid yourself of stroke, heart attack, diabetes, visceral fat, that's the fat around the belly, again, even cancer and blindness and all of these different issues that are caused by insulin, then you need to start taking a look at your lifestyle. And remember, I said one of the supplements that you have, one of the best supplements that you have, is your lifestyle. That is the best. If somebody asks me what's the top supplement I could take, lifestyle. You have to start doing some things so that you don't have to get extreme. Okay, I'm trying to get this to you again before your pain outweighs your pleasure. You can have pleasurable moments, when it comes to eating and enjoying life and stuff, but you don't want to do it at the sake of having some kind of disease. And so I did put together, and be on the lookout. It's going to launch on Saturday morning. So be on the lookout. It'll be on Facebook. I'm going to send out emails, but I do have a 28-day program that fixes all of this, that gives you the exercise routine, the meal plans, the shopping list, the groceries, the recipes, the bonuses, the all the information that you're going to get videos every day. You're going to get notes. You're going to get journals, pre-assessment. You're going to have access to everything. It's a month worth of information, because again, there is a lot to learn. You may think this is a lot. No, there's a lot to learn that you need to know about your body. And it took me months to put all of this together and to even record all the content that I recorded and stuff for this program. But it is a program that can reverse all of this, get you back burning your fat, get your metabolism set, reverse high blood pressure. It gives you everything that you need to be healthy. All right. And we deal with this issue also of insulin, and you go into further education on how all of this stuff works. And so again, be out on the lookout, especially if you know somebody. And look, even if somebody won't get it for themselves, get it for somebody who need it, because it's just people out here that's sick that don't have to be sick. There's a solution to it. And so I've dedicated my life to really, again, research, because again, I don't want to just give you anything. I want to give you stuff that's proven. Okay. And this is the stuff that's proven. This is what I do every day, all day. I wake up, I research, I enjoy it. I love finding out the truth of the matter, and I love educating. Okay. So I hope that this helped you. And hopefully I'll get a chance to tomorrow answer a few questions at the end. I know I didn't get a chance to today or yesterday, but I'll get some time in tomorrow, because I'm sure some of you all may have questions. All right. Now the program again drops Saturday. So again, it'll be on my Facebook page. Make sure that you are a part of my Facebook community. And then there are those who are a part of my email community, and you'll get the email also. So don't worry, I'll have it on all my social media connections, so y'all will be able to get a hold of it. All right. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that this helped you guys to know a little bit more about your body and being able to educate you in a way that you can make better decisions. All right. Love you guys.